In 2014, we decided that we wanted to continue adding to our family. For the next 14 months, I struggled to understand why I wasn't pregnant yet, and my doctors couldn't really tell me either. But in 2015, we were so excited to discover that we were expecting. But just as quickly as we found out that we were experiencing a miscarriage. And so there were tons of emotions that came with that, and also tons of doctor's appointments. And I remember being at my very last doctor's appointment, and I walked in and I just felt empty. I went through my appointment and I was done, and I stood out at the checkout counter, still just feeling that emptiness. But the woman that stood in front of me, she was beaming. She had just found out that she was expecting her first child, and she shared with every nurse how excited she was and how full of joy she was and how ready she was to just add to her family. And for the first time in months, I stood behind her and I realized that I wasn't disappointed and I wasn't envious and I wasn't hurt, but for a moment, in that simple, quick moment, I truly felt her joy. I felt joy because God had given her something great and it was worthy of being celebrated. And so even though my circumstance hadn't changed at all, I was able to experience joy that came from the Lord. And so as I was thinking about talking about joy, I began to realize that joy isn't something that is reserved for our brightest moments. It's not something that God can only hand us when we aren't hurting or when we aren't broken, but that it's something that can be given to us even in the midst of brokenness. I was reminded of a verse in Romans 5 that speaks to the grace that we can stand on, for the joy of the Lord that we can hope for. And so today, as we light the candle of joy, I hope that we are reminded that joy isn't circumstantial, but that joy that comes from the Lord, that's unexplainable.